Our world's wetlands are one of the most fragile and precious ecosystems to exist. Wetlands are the backbone of our wildlife, and the loss of this critical habitat often slips under the radar. In the United States, for example, about 85% of wetland habitat has been drained or destroyed for agriculture or development. When I first experienced the true magnificence of what a healthy wetland ecosystem is, I gained an appreciation for these places that I didn't know was possible. When I moved further west to the Rockies, I knew I'd miss not being able to experience the abundance of wetlands that the upper Midwest harbors. To my surprise, however, I discovered just how rich the western landscape was of these marshlands. In fact, through all the exploring I did in the years to follow, I found these western wetlands to be even more inspiring. I found that many of these places were sometimes even less disturbed than some of the premier places back east, examples of true hidden gems. I'll never forget stumbling across what I now consider my favorite place to experience the marsh and observe the wildlife that inhabits it. With miles and miles of potholes, creeks, marshes, lakes, and stunning backdrops, this area captures everything I love about the wild. During the spring, the sounds of amphibians, insects, and birds are so abundant that it creates a constant hum in the air, which seems almost deafening. Add to all of that the sounds of the wing beats in the air, the subtle sounds of the water, the surrounding views of the mountains, and this place truly becomes a model of perfection in the eyes of Mother Nature. These places of sheer beauty exist throughout all waterfowl migratory paths. To witness these birds in such abundance while in such a beautiful place is an extraordinary sight to behold, and there really is nothing else like it. This particular painting has been a long time coming for me. After experiencing this place, I had returned over the past several years numerous times to study and learn about the landscape, to witness what sorts of species existed there, and to try and get a grasp for what I feel while I'm there, and more so what I want to portray, because I knew that this place called to me. It spoke to my personal ambitions, my personal cares, and I knew that if I was going to attempt this particular scene, that it had to be right, and it had to be something that I viewed in my eyes as perfection. This scene is really a composite of several different places in this area. There's no one place that quite looks like this, but features of its landscape are accurate to the region. I knew that I wanted this sky to be particularly captivating. I wanted the colors to stand out and to draw the viewer into the scene, or rather catch their attention, and then allow the ducks and the rest of the details to sort of draw you in. So I used a lot of bright turquoise in the blue sky, and then I wanted to immediately contrast that with some of the darker colors of the clouds and tie that all in together with some very bright oranges and yellows along the highlights. I would say that the most difficult part of piecing this scene together was figuring out how to not only capture the sky in such a way, but to get the viewer to believe its reflection in the water. The reference that I had taken while out on all of my journeys to this area didn't quite capture everything how I wanted to. And so once I finished the sky and the mountains, figuring out how I was going to also depict that in reverse down in the water was quite a difficult task. I used a lot of measuring to make sure horizontally that everything lined up with each other, and I tried to compress some of the sky down into the water so that you could really see all of the details in the sky within the body of water down below. And then I would say the next thing that was very difficult for me was adding all of the ducks into this scene. Deciding on the composition of the flock and deciding on the composition of each bird was a struggle at times, and I sketched out all of my birds in advance on a piece of paper. I cut those pieces of paper to create small templates of my birds, and I spent quite a bit of time rearranging them on the canvas prior to actually applying paint, so that I could sort of visualize the structure of the birds and the flocks and how they were coming through. I wanted it to, again, sort of draw the viewer's eye in based on the composition of the flock of birds. And so these bluebills were, and the position of these birds were really important to me. This scene, of course, takes place in the spring of the year during the breeding season. And so in the front of this flock, I have a hen scaup, and she is taking the lead, and many suitors are following close behind. There's also a couple other hens mixed into this flock of birds. But I really wanted to capture not only this scene as a whole, but the characteristics, the behavior, and the personality of these birds as well. And so I put the hen purposefully in front, and my hope was to really connect with those who share a similar love for waterfowl, for the marsh and wetland birds as a whole. That all being said, I really struggled with the completion of these birds and getting the anatomy of these birds to be correct. Even though I had some outlines pre-drawn and sketched out for me to follow, it's always a daunting task to get the birds positioned just right and to get them to feel like they are anatomically accurate. It's so hard to get reference of these birds, to photograph them. Nothing is ever perfect when you have reference, and although you can get the position of these birds in a photo, it's oftentimes nearly impossible to get the lighting the way that you want. And so I had to use a lot of different resources of mine to piece together the lighting coming from behind and trying to get the sunlight to appear that it's hitting and contacting the back of these birds. I added a total of 85 birds to this scene overall. Waterfowl in the background, along the shoreline, in the sky. I wanted to really capture the moment for what it was. When you experience a very healthy wetland ecosystem, it truly is an amazing sight, and there oftentimes is so much going on between the songbirds along the shoreline, the waterfowl, the shorebirds, and my goal was to really capture all of that in such a way that it brings one back to the marsh, to those mornings that are so inspiring. And I really carefully thought out almost every individual bird before adding it to the scene, because the story of this place was something that was important to me, and I wanted each bird to aid in telling that story. This painting, to me, holds so much more than what can be seen at face value. It holds the story of how I got here. It provides a glimpse into the time, the hard work, and the dedication that brought me to this concept. Experiencing the wild for what it is, good or bad, to me is what's most important as an artist. It's not always enjoyable, the elements are not always perfect, and the struggles are oftentimes very real. But the way that Mother Nature rewards this is unexplainably worth it in every way. The wild contains so much beauty, and I'm truly grateful to be able to experience this in the way that I can. And I hope that by sharing this painting, these experiences of mine, and this story, that it can inspire others to not only appreciate, but perhaps to get out and learn and experience this beauty of the marsh as well. I hope you enjoyed this painting and this process. Thank you so much for watching.